Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. So we live in a highly polarized age, it seems like, where everybody is choosing sides, politically, religiously, morally. It's good to have firm beliefs. I think that it's a good aspect of character to know who you are and to know where you stand. People that sit on the fence can be annoying. Those are usually weak motherfuckers who really don't have an opinion and they're just waiting for whichever way the wind blows so they could fall off on the winning team. You hear a lot of terms these days about being sheep or sheeple. How do you determine if someone's a sheep or if you yourself has turned into a sheep? A lot of people think that they're individuals and they plant that flag like they won some kind of battle. I'm an individual. But really all they are is sheep. They don't even know it. A lot of animals that travel in flocks or in packs, in herds, they may think that they're thinking for themselves. They may think that they're individuals. Like they have their own separate wants and needs. They have their own little belief systems, but they really don't. So how do you tell who a sheep is? Because people point the finger all the time. You're a sheep, but they don't really know what it means. Maybe they do. I personally think that being a sheep is simply somebody who, say for example with politics or religion, that's where we see it a lot, is somebody who touts the party line, who just parrots, like they just sit there like a trained pet store parrot, saying back whatever has been said to them enough times. You can tell these people when you talk to them at the bar or at the gym or wherever you go, at your office, wherever you are, that you talk about world events and politics, what's right and what's wrong with people. You know, you have certain people where you have those conversations with and certain people you don't. And I can always tell a sheep right away. You know how? Because all they do is they regurgitate the talking points that they've heard for that day in the news. So if there's a headline that says whatever, it could be right-leaning or left-leaning, these people will regurgitate, will parrot back that headline word for word, as if they came up with it. As if their belief follows that. Well, maybe it does, but they've been brainwashed. Sheep are brainwashed. These are people that are almost like cult members. And it can be rather amusing. I pay attention to the headlines for one reason only. Not really to absorb the daily news, because honestly, anybody who knows me knows I don't really give a fuck. But I pay attention to the headlines on both sides, both the left and the right. Because I like to know when I'm talking to people who the sheep are, and I can tell them right away, instantly. They're the ones, they will say that headline word for word. And that's really where it ends. If you try to engage them in that conversation, all they'll be able to do is possibly talk about the first paragraph of the article that they browsed through. So it reaffirms their beliefs that they've been fed. They can have one of these, yeah, that's fucked up, or I'm afraid of that, or I'm outraged by that kind of experiences within themselves as they're scanning down the article. People don't really read in order to reflect when it comes to this type of stuff. They just read because they're looking for stuff to talk about with other people. They're looking for ways to reaffirm their belief system, because these are typically weak people who can't get through the day on their own. They don't have a sense of individuality. They're not really critical thinkers. See this with religion as well. You get people that, sure, they can quote the Bible, but only because it's been quoted to them in Sunday service. They can talk back what the preacher said, what the pastor said, but can they really think about it? Can they dissect it? Can they get into it? Can they talk about it for 2 hours? From every point of view, from every angle? No way. All they can do is just regurgitate back that one sentence, that catchphrase they heard, and it sounded good for the moment. reaffirms this belief that they've been fed. It's the same with current events in politics. Religion and politics are very similar in that way when it comes to being a sheep, being a follower, being brainless, losing your individuality just to spew another person's agenda. Now, there's one step further from being a sheep. There's another level to it. When somebody is a sheep for long enough, they become an agent. Now, agents can be rather smart people. Sheep, I typically look at as being unintellectual and shallow. But agents can be rather intellectual people. But these are people that have been in the cult for longer, that have absorbed the message more, and they still lack their critical thinking point of view, but they think they have it. The reason why I say that is because they're not looking at their own opinions critically. They're not looking at the message that's being fed them critically. They're only looking at the opposite of their message, what they think is the opposite of their message, critically. So these people can talk for hours about, for example, politics on the left or the right. And if they're coming from the left, they can spew and talk about those issues for a long time, dissecting them down to, the simplest terms and being able to explain it to you and really try to convince you. And these people are like they're working for the cult, trying to bring people in, bring in new members. They're the ones that are agents of that agenda, agents of that party. People with religion are this way too. They can proselytize. These people, you'll see them out in front of the subway screaming at you as you get off, talking about repent, repent. These are also people that you might meet them. I've met them before, and they can be rather tricky. And you talk to somebody and they seem cool, and then all of a sudden you start noticing that everything they're talking about is coming back to this Jesus bullshit, that everything they talk about is put into a certain context from a certain perspective. And really what they're doing, they have an agenda. They're like a little agent, and they're trying to capture you in a way. They're trying to get you to be one of the sheep. These people can be very insidious. Some of them can be rather innocent with it, and they just become obsessed. But what they do on the outside, regardless of what their intention is, what they're doing is just as nasty. The agents are really the ones you have to watch out for. Sheep are easy to identify, to walk around. The agents will really try to get in your way. With politics, they're the same way. They'll really know these issues from their point of view, say if they're on the right, and they'll really have it down. And they absorb all the various angles of that one perspective from a right-leaning perspective, never criticizing it, never looking at their own people and saying, now wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. I've done research on this, because they're not really doing true research. They're staying within a very tight bubble, and they may have seen the edges of that bubble, whereas the sheep just stays in the middle. But they still haven't broken beyond the bubble. The agents are really harder to identify sometimes, just because of how normal they may seem, but some of these people can become rather extreme. And the problem with them is that people become agents to an agenda without really realizing it, and they become so indoctrinated, just like in a cult. They become so brainwashed that they really truly feel within their heart of hearts that they are seeing clearly, and that everything else, everything other than what they see and what they believe, is fucked up, is stupid, is wrong, is evil. They use these kinds of words, good and evil. They have this dichotomy that they look through the world at, this dualism of good and evil. I'm telling you, it's all pure nonsense. A true individual, somebody who has true intelligence, can see both sides, can see the flaws in both arguments, and take both, say if we're talking about politics, take both the left and the right position on a particular event and absorb it, absorb everything, even the stuff that they don't like. Absorb it all. Put that in their little blender in their mind, mix it around, and then decide where they truly stand as individuals. Talking to people like that is rather enlightening. They still may fall on one side of the aisle or the other. But at least that person has thought about it. That person has a knowledge of all the various aspects of that topic, not just their own lens, their own filter that they've been seeing through. So it's just important to know the two types of people that you're dealing with out there: agents and sheep. And of course, there's the third type, which is the true individual. We can all fall victim and be susceptible to becoming sheep or agents. So it takes a lot of work to be a true individual, and sometimes that work is too much for people. Because it's easy just to be fed shit. It's easy just to stay on certain websites. It's easy to ignore a message you don't like. It's easy to just kind of follow along. And you may think that you're becoming a little activist, you're becoming a leader within your realm, but are you really seeing clearly? I talk about this because I like to talk about being positive, being able to see clear enough to not fall victim to the delusions that we create for ourselves in our life that can lead to depression, anxiety. People live in this world nowadays where they kind of flip-flop between fear and outrage. I'm trying to break beyond all that. A true warrior isn't affected emotionally by what's going on around them. Whether it's a time of peace or a time of war, their mental state does not change. Their discipline does not change. You can't trick a warrior. You can't sweet talk them. You can't con them. So what are you? Are you a sheep? Are you an agent? Or are you an individual? It's just worth thinking about. Thanks for watching.